The former president's ties run deep in West Michigan, especially for businessman, philanthropist, and Republican activist Peter Secchia. 24-hour News 8's Barton Dieters talked with the former ambassador today at his East Grand Rapids home and brings us the story tonight. Barton, good evening.
Well, Leon, the life of Peter Secchia was intertwined with the life of President George H.W. Bush, since they became political allies in the 1970s as the Republican Party was coming out of the devastation of the Watergate scandal. They would go on to see the party reclaim the presidency for 12 straight years. And during that time, the political ties became ties of friendship. And now the 81-year-old former ambassador remembers his friend.
I love the guy. I really do.
Peter Secchia and George Bush first became acquainted working in the administration of Gerald Ford. Bush would become CIA director, and Secchia was vice chairman of the Republican National Committee.
I marveled at his stature, the way he handled himself.
Secchia worked for the Bush campaign when Bush ran against Ronald Reagan. And in 1980, George Bush scored an upset primary win in Michigan, taking 57% of the vote to Reagan's 32%.
Well, as the chairman of his campaign, that's a badge of honor for me that we were able to carry him forward.
Secchia visited Bush often in the West Wing when he was vice president.
I, George Herbert Walker.
Bush wanted Secchia in his administration, but Secchia did not want to go to Washington, D.C. to live. But his grandfather was from Italy, and he hoped to get that ambassador position.
He actually picked me out of the crowd as a person who he could depend on.
Bush chose Secchia as ambassador, but Democrats who controlled Congress at the time held up the appointment for 6 months.
He was a man to be reckoned with and to be very careful of, because you had to keep your respect from him, because he was a powerful player.
Secchia would be an ambassador to a key European ally as the Soviet Union was dissolving, one of the seminal events of the late 20th century.
He did things for the right reason, and he did them with class.
Bush stayed with Secchia at the Italian embassy as they worked on nuclear disarmament in Europe.
He was an imposing figure, but he was a regular guy. I mean, he didn't play aloof, he just was aloof.
The two men saw less of each other after the presidency. But the two remained close, Secchia said, and both men struggled with illness and the death in April of this year of Barbara Bush. While Secchia is regaining his health, the president's health faltered until late last night at the age of 94. The World War II naval hero died.
No, it's not a time to be sad. It's a time to be happy that he knows he's with Barbara again and he's not sick and in trouble like he was for several months. But we celebrate his life, and there's a lot to celebrate. The man got a lot done.
Of course, ultimately, it'll be up to history to assess the 41st presidency. But for today, the nation remembers a leader who described himself as kinder and gentler. And Peter Secchia will remember fondly his friend. In studio, Barton Dieters, 24-hour News 8.